Look, the Lakers have been disappointing this playoffs. They were expected to make the NBA Finals, but they fell short in the first round to the Wolves. The roster was vastly overrated since the Luka trade, with Jackson Hayes as their only starting center and a lack of 3-and-D players to surround Luka and LeBron. Luka is abhorrent defensively. His effort was consistently terrible on defense. Julius Randle was excited to see Luka in front of him, and it was an easy blow-by for a free chip to the rim every time. The Lakers just don't have the pieces to cover up for Luka's extreme deficiency on defense. This Lakers team was ranked 17th in defensive rating since the trade deadline, which is not nearly good enough for a team vying to win a championship. JJ Redick looked like a rookie coach in this series with his decision in Game 4 to play one lineup for the entire second half. It's a terrible decision with your second best player being 40 years old and Luka is not known for his stamina. It caused LeBron to not score a single point in the fourth quarter because they were gassed. The whole team was gassed and it allowed the Wolves to come back in the game and take it to a 3-1 lead. I'm sure JJ will come back the following season and be better, but his inability to make Jackson Hayes work well enough that Rudy Gobert doesn't score 27 points in an elimination game is very bad. They need to reevaluate the roster and bring in a legit center to help out Luka, who does extremely well with a lob threat on his team. If they can bring in a guy who rim runs and rebounds very well, along with one more 3-and-D shooter, this team could be really good again next year. In the final years of LeBron's career, he's going to have a chance to win another championship if Pelinka and the Lakers make the right moves in the offseason. Anthony Edwards stamped himself as one of the best players in the world, defeating Luka, the man who whooped his team last year in the conference finals, and taking down arguably the greatest player of all time. Edwards has been insane throughout the series, especially in Game 4 where he had over 40 points and was making every correct decision. His biggest development has been his ability to play make. In the past, he was double-teamed and made erratic decisions with the ball. In this series, he's been stellar at taking his time to make the right pass and take advantage of the double team coming his way. Ant-Man is the guy for this Timberwolves team, but the supporting cast was phenomenal throughout this series. Julius Randle played the best playoff basketball of his career, consistently making smart plays and taking efficient offensive shots, averaging 22 a game with a 61% true shooting percentage, his highest margins by a significant amount in his playoff career. He was also known for his poor playmaking decisions, consistently racking up turnovers, but this year he only averaged 2.6 turnovers in this series, which was 2 less on average than previous playoff years. He was a legit playoff performer for the squad, which most thought would never happen, and he'd be a one-year rental. The rest of the cast also balled out. Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels were insanely good in this series, consistently holding their own defensively and offensively, providing extremely impactful output. They will be key to this Wolves' chance of making a run to the NBA Finals. They are a legit team that proved it by dominating the Lakers. They now have to run through Steph Curry and the Warriors to see whether or not they can make another conference finals. The Warriors are on their final go-round of the dynasty that once stood tall. Steph, Dre, and Jimmy are on their last runs to try and win another ring. They started great beating this young Rockets team. The whole trajectory of this team has changed by Jimmy Butler. It saved their season. Since the trade, they are the third best team in net rating in the entire NBA, with the best defensive rating in all of basketball. They completely revamped their team, replacing Wiggins with Butler, improved their playmaking on offense and their team defense overall. They gave themselves another chance to win the whole thing in the Steph era, and he deserves it. Steph has been phenomenal this playoffs, winning Game 3 by himself with Jimmy out with an injury. He's still one of the best players on the planet and capable of being the best player on a championship roster. Hopefully the Warriors org goes all in next season, improving the team to push them even closer to a championship contention. This year, I don't think they have enough, and it's been evident in this Rocket series. They've struggled against the double big lineups of Adams and Sengun, who've dominated the offensive glass. They're going to deal with a lot of size against Minnesota, and they're a much better offensive team. I'm still concerned for their run this year, but you can never doubt Steph, Dre, and Jimmy in any playoff series. The Rockets need to reevaluate their roster and find a legit star for this team. If this Rockets team had a legit closer, they could have beat this Warriors team, but they had Sengun missing the game winner in Game 4, and Jalen Green stinking it up for the majority of this series. Amen Thompson isn't at that level yet that you can rely on him for high-level offensive output when the game's at its closest moments. Fred VanVleet can't be the guy saving your season when you need it most. Their offensive rating in the fourth quarter of this playoffs is the fourth lowest amongst all the teams. They need to find a trade that gives them a guy who can close tight games for them, and bring in reliable shooters to take advantage of teams, selling out on Amen or Sengun in the paint. Overall, this season was an extreme success for the Rockets, and their future outlook is very, very strong. The Pacers absolutely destroyed the Bucks and look like the team they were last season. Tyrese Halliburton has led this team to another second round appearance for a franchise that hasn't had playoff success since Paul George was their main star. He stamped himself as one of the best point guards in the NBA. In Game 5, the Pacers were down 7 with 35 seconds left in overtime, and the Bucks had a 97% chance to win the game. The Pacers then hit a 3, turned the Bucks over, Halliburton hit an and one layup, and then Gary Trent Jr. let the ball roll under his legs for another turnover. Halliburton would then beat his man to the basket for the game-winning layup, winning improbably. The Pacers' shooting and pace of play allow them to beat any team in the league. In this series, they have shot 40% from 3. Because of their ability to shoot the 3 ball better than any team in the NBA, the Pacers could beat the Cavs in the second round. But the big discussion here is what's happening to the Bucks. Damian Lillard suffered an Achilles tear that will end his season and most likely most of 2026. It's an awful injury that could end Lillard's career at 34. It leaves what could have been an extremely potent duo with Giannis and Dame to a one-man show with a very weak supporting cast. The Bucks have a surplus of free agents this summer with contributors like Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, and Gary Trent Jr. potentially leaving. The cap outlook is not good for the Bucks, and the likelihood of them bringing in pieces that will raise the ceiling of this team is not very high. They're stuck with Kyle Kuzma, who's been horrific this season. They traded Chris Middleton in a first-round pick for a guy with a negative 6+ - on the season, which is 542nd worst in the NBA. They're in cap hell with no realistic path to a championship contention, which might cause problems for Giannis. Giannis has been on the record consistently saying he will be in Milwaukee as long as they compete for championships. The possibility of Giannis requesting a trade could happen this offseason. They won't be close to a championship next season, and it's the third year in a row they've lost in the first round. Over this time span, he's averaged 30 points per game on close to 12 rebounds and an efficiency field goal percentage of 60%. He finishes within the top 3 in MVP voting almost every year and is undisputably the second best player in the world. This season, Giannis scored the most points and grabbed the most rebounds in the first round of the playoffs, and it still won't amount to anything for this team. Giannis feels the urgency to win and wants to fulfill his legacy as a winning player. If the Bucks do indeed trade Giannis, they can't bottom out because they don't have their picks. They don't have the choice of their draft pick through 2030. They have pick swaps with New Orleans and Portland, with both teams getting to choose the favorable pick of the two. They have to trade for picks and players that make them competitive enough that the Blazers and Pelicans aren't getting a top 10 pick in the draft. But they also have to be bad enough that they can draft franchise-changing players. Trading Giannis for a draft haul isn't the band-aid to save the future of this team. They're in an extremely bleak situation with their cap space in hell, no draft picks, and a potentially unhappy Giannis. The Bucks will have to pull off a few miracles if they want to compete for a championship in the next few seasons with Giannis, or pull off a large trade that can set their franchise in the right direction. The Grizzlies need to blow it up. This current core has gone as far as it can go. They haven't progressed past the team they were in 2021, and with an improved West, they fell off a cliff. Their star players are too unreliable, missing extended periods of time with injuries. Unfortunately, Ja Morant got injured through a relatively dirty play and was forced to miss time in the series, but it's a consistent track record for Morant. He's yet to play 70 games in a season in his career. Amongst his draft class, he has the 20th most played games. In the last 3 seasons, Ja has played fewer games than Kawhi Leonard, whose knees are cooked. His playstyle seems to lead to injury. He's a small guy flying high with the Giants, and a lot of the time he comes down hard and he gets hurt. Ja is still one of the most talented point guards in the league, but his playstyle might not be viable anymore. His inability to shoot the ball this far into his career allows teams to sag off him and stack the paint. He needs to find a way to develop his game further, or teams will exploit this lack of shooting ability. A lot of Morant's offensive decline can be attributed to the new offensive scheme that they tried to run, running less pick and roll and moving Morant off ball more. This caused Morant to take fewer shots and become less involved in the offense. After the All-Star break, the team went 12-16 and fell from the 2 seed to the 8th seed, becoming a middle-of-the-road team offensively and defensively. Their new scheme wasn't working, which ended up causing them to fire their coach at the tail end of the season. Ja Morant can still be one of the best players on a championship roster, but his surrounding cast needs to improve, and they need to find a new coach who can maximize Morant's talent. Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson are not good enough second options to win a championship. Both of these guys are amazing players, but they would be best suited as a third option on a winning team rather than the number 2. If I had to pick between the two, I would choose to keep Jaren Jackson and try to package Bane into an upgrade to raise the ceiling of this roster. Kevin Durant is a potential trade target in the offseason that would raise the overall ceiling of this roster. Regardless of what they do, if they feel like trading any of their core 3 would be a good idea, They desperately need to upgrade this roster if they want to be a championship contender again. The Thunder, on the other hand, are an extremely dominant team, and they proved it in this series. They're the best team in the world, dominating the first 2 games of the series and making an incredible comeback in the 3rd game, coming back down 26 points. They look ready to make a championship run. There's not much else that needs to be said about this dominant team. The Knicks have been very up and down in this series. The first 2 games, they could have been a disaster for them, where they needed a 21-point comeback in Game 1 to ensure the series didn't end up in an 0-2 hole. But then they went on the road to Detroit and took care of business. Cat scored over 25 in both games, hit big shots down the stretch. Mikal started hitting his shots, and Brunson balled out like usual. What they showed in Detroit was closer to what I expected from this team offensively. But to be in such close games with an extremely inexperienced team that had the worst record in basketball just last year is kind of concerning. If the Knicks don't go on an insane 21-0 run to come back and win Game 1, if the foul is called at the end of Game 3, this series could have been a lot different. But ifs and buts don't win basketball games, and it's impressive to be composed in close games and finish off the lesser team. I still question if this Knicks team can beat Boston in the next round. They're there with Boston star power-wise, but it feels like a coaching difference will be the problem in this series. Tibbs has confused me in this series at times. He put out lineups where Brunson nor Cat is on the floor, and it's just a recipe for disaster. I still feel this offense is too Brunson hero ball centered. He's one of the best in the league at it, but it doesn't maximize this roster's full potential. Also in Game 5 of this series, he had Brunson and Josh Hart on the sideline in the final 2 minutes of the game, just sitting at the scorer's table waiting while he had a timeout that could have brought them back in, but decided not to use it, and it allowed the Pistons to extend their lead and extend the series to 6 games. His decision-making concerns me in this series where Mazzulla might eat Tibbs alive. This season, the Celtics swept the Knicks in their season series with an average margin of victory of 16 points. This Knicks team has the potential to win a championship, but I don't think they'll do it under Tibbs, and Boston will run them out of the building. The Nuggets were the most clutch team in this series. Consistently won every game that was tight down the stretch, winning in overtime in Game 1 after trailing for most of the game, and a crazy game winner in Game 4. The Clippers had 2 games in their hands but let it slip, and the Nuggets capitalized and took care of business at home for the remainder of the series, blowing the Clippers out of the building in Game 7. You can trust this Nuggets team down the stretch to win big games because of that 2-man game of Jokic and Murray. Playoff Murray arrived in this series with a 40-point game in Game 5 to give the Nuggets that 3-2 series lead. He needs to be this player for the Nuggets to succeed versus the Thunder. I've learned to never doubt the best player in the world in a series between similarly matched teams. Jokic lost his coach before the season ended, and they still showed up and showed out to beat a very good Clippers team. Jokic now faces a formidable trial in the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is the best team we've seen since the 2016 Warriors. Jokic needs to dominate Chet and Hartenstein if they want to win this series, and Murray has to get the better of the Lou Dort matchup. He had 1 game where he scored over 20 points against this Thunder team this year, and in this series he has to consistently be that second scorer to relieve the pressure off of Jokic. If those two can dominate their matchup, this Nuggets team could win a series versus the historic Thunder. But let's focus on the Clippers' collapse. A franchise that has consistently crumbled when the pressure reaches its highest. I mean, this Game 7 from your superstars was horrific. The third quarter was a bloodbath for this team. They thought it was a game in December with the energy they put out there. Harden finished with 7 points on 8 field goal attempts, taking fewer shots than Derrick Jones Jr. Your second option star failed to make any impact on the biggest game of your season, but it's a trend with Harden in Game 7s, averaging only 19 a game on 35% from the field. He's just awful when the pressure is at its highest. Kawhi didn't do much either, only scoring 22 with 13 shot attempts. They allowed the supporting cast in Norman Powell and Derrick Jones Jr. to take too many shots. These superstars should have taken on the responsibility to be the dominant players in this game, with the season on the line. Everything went the Clippers' way this time around. Kawhi was healthy, the roster was deep, Harden and Zubac were all NBA level players, and yet they crumbled under the pressure once again. Thank you for watching my first round recap and reactions to each team. Now we have the second round of the playoffs, which has kicked off in an extremely weird way, with both top seeds in the East down 2-0 and the Thunder in a 1-1 series. Steph hurt his hamstring and will miss at least a week of games while the Warriors try to hold on with a 1-0 lead in the series. If you like this content, please subscribe to the channel. Peace out.